Good evening, this is Wakia, or Thunder, or Roger. Any one of those terms will do. I use them interchangeably, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, or who I'm talking to, or things of that nature. So tonight we're going to talk about tonight. See, I usually do this stuff in the morning, so this is different for me. Haven't been doing night videos. I'm in the war room here tonight. I usually do the front room, but tonight I'm doing this room. It's more cozy. The lighting is subdued. It's different. It's kind of spooky, huh? Anyway, I was going to talk about intel. Gathering intel. And how do you do that? How do you gather intel? Well, let's take for an example the Ukraine war, or any event for that matter that's happening overseas or around the world. And I will extrapolate this even further and say not any event, but any questions that you might have about anything. Let's say religion, or the origins of the Bible, or whatever, I have always been the kind of person that had to gather intel and find out what's really going on. And there's a way that you do that, and you can do it on the internet. Most people think that just because the three-letter agencies call themselves intelligence, which is really an oxymoron nowadays, they think that because these people call themselves intelligence agents, that they're the only ones that know what the fuck's going on. I got news for you. There's all kinds of ways to gather intelligence, and I've been doing it for years. What you do is you find sources, okay? That's the key word, source. And depending on your source it depends on your source whether you're getting good intel or whether you're getting propaganda, or you may have sources that distribute propaganda, but you still watch them because it's always good to cross-reference. And you have to do that. You see, you have to be superb at cross-referencing to try to connect the dots and figure out what the fuck's really going on. And somewhere that old saying, about truth, it's trying to remember the saying now. Somewhere in between lies the truth. Okay, you might hear one thing from one source and one thing from another source, or you might hear one direction of propaganda from a certain country, and you might hear another direction from another country. One person's lying, or one person's semi-lying. And so all these things matter when you're gathering intel. You can't just take one source. Now you have what you call more reliable sources, or you might even have inside sources. Like, say, inside the government, or inside this, or inside that. Or, let's say, inside as to certain people being on the actual front lines of, let's say, a battle, or a war, or a conflict. So it's really hard to get intel sometimes on conflicts that are going on, because both sides of the conflict are playing the game. They're playing the game like Sun Tzu's Art of War spells out perfectly. And they might be playing any number of those rules. Most people that are into intel are into strategy, which is another thing I'm into. Like chess and the game of Go and stuff like that. Thinking ahead, thinking outside the box, thinking thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. Always having a plan A or B or C. And if A don't work, B might work or C might work. So you got to evaluate and reflect and come from a place of strategy, moves on a chessboard, if you will. So if you want to find out something about a certain area, let's say a narrative that the government may be propagating about a war or about a disease or about any number of things that may or may not be good for you. The thing you have to do is you have to do a one-up, okay, on the people that are out there spewing lies and propaganda. And you do your own research. And you gather your own intel, and you go to sources. And like I say, you can go to sources in books, you can go to sources on the internet, because no matter how much they try to censor, they let certain things through. And even those dummies don't know what they're letting through sometimes, okay? They just think, oh, this is a channel. You got to think that they're probably dummies, because why is it that I can go to one channel and listen to stuff and then go to another channel and listen to stuff, and they might say something that I would say, and maybe I get a strike on my channel, and you wonder why they don't get a strike on their channel, and you wonder if they're part of the game. You always have to be cynical about situations and news that arises, okay? You have to be cynical, and you have to be very, very, you have to enlist a lot of scrutiny, okay? And you have to enlist a lot of lucid thinking, and you have to enlist all kinds of things. You have to come from all kinds of levels, okay? So even though that I go out and gather intel from sources, like, let's say I might watch a military channel from Russia, or a person that is on YouTube, actually, that is a Russian. See, this is the stuff you can't figure out. And you might get these people. I have several people that I go to, and they pull up the maps, and they pull up the Russian map, and they pull up the Ukraine map, and they show all the battle positions. They show all the different forces that are arranged around the front. They show battalions. They click on the battalions and show you what the name of the battalions are. They show you how much ground was taken by a certain party. They tell you how many soldiers were killed in that day. These are military channels. And sometimes, now I'm not saying official military, I'm saying people that are into the same thing that I'm into, gathering intel and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. So, as you peruse these different channels, the military channel, and then I got another channel of a guy that's right on the front lines near Donetsk and Luhansk, and talks to those people daily. And then I have a few other channels that I go to where there's female reporters living in places, you know, like Mariupol and in Donetsk and these different places. That's another thing too. It's really hard trying to pronounce some of the names of these Russian cities and towns and territories and stuff like that. I'll be the first to admit that I probably fuck up a lot of the pronunciation, but that's not the important thing, is it? So, as you go around gathering intel, you gather it all together, and again, you cross-reference these things that you go to. And you can also go to periodicals, and there's periodicals online. Like, say, take the Ukraine war, for example. There's all kinds of Russian newspapers like TASS and others, Avia Pro and all kinds of others. Avia Pro is more aviation oriented and is concerned with bombs and missiles and stuff like that. So what I'm saying here is that I'm the kind of person that has gathered intel from day one. Now I might research. Now let's jump to another subject. Let's say I'm going to research a religion. Let's say I'm going to research the Catholics, or let's say I'm going to research the Protestants, or let's say I'm going to research the Jehovah's Witnesses, or let's say I'm going to research the Mormons. Well, you do the same thing that you do. Let me have a cup of my Joe here to help my... freshly brewed 5 minutes ago. Incidentally, this hat I'm wearing, this says Macy's. No, that's not Macy's department store. That's Macy's coffee shop in Flagstaff, Arizona, 1979, formed there. Little eclectic coffee shop that I've been going to for years, but I digress. So if you want to research a religion, or let's say a belief system, or let's say the history of the world, or let's say alien technology, or let's say aviation technology. Incidentally, you all know I'm a pilot, so I've been into that stuff for years. Done aerobatic flying and all kinds of good shit. Was a flight instructor for 5 years. You know that. I've talked about that before. So consequently, you know, I guess what you could call me is a seeker, and a seeker of intel. Now recently, I want to make a point here about gathering intel and the people I listen to. So I listen to a lot of ex-CIA operatives, and they're interviewed. You can find interviews with them all over the channels, like Larry Johnson and Ray McGovern, and then you got General McGregor, who is actually related to MacArthur, and he's a supreme strategist. So again, you gather all this information. Now, what I noticed recently is that when things arise, like let's say the intel leak that just came out, and supposed intel leak, and from the Pentagon, and blah blah blah, and they're going to accuse a 21-year-old. All these CIA guys are going, this is crazy, this is absolutely nuts, this is unheard of. These people that are in the Air National Guard or the Air Force National Guard don't have this kind of clearance. And they're baffled by it, and why, and then the next thing that arises is, well, maybe this was a programmed leak from somebody, let's say up the chain, that is in the Pentagon or something, that is not down with what's going on with Ukraine. And, you know, the American stance on Ukraine, and the all in, you know, Texas Hold'em, we're all in towards bringing Russia down through a proxy war. Crazily insane stuff. You have to know the history, and see, that's where intel comes in. Again, real useful, because if you can't go on current events without researching the history and understanding the context and understanding the origins of what might have caused a certain conflict. Just like back in World War II, when a single assassination, Archbishop, what was it, Ferdinand, or think that was it. See, this is late at night for me. I'm doing all right, though. So anyway, you have to understand the context, and you have to understand the origins of why a certain conflict is arising. Now compare what I'm saying with the normal Joe on the street. The normal blow Joe on the street, okay, that doesn't know shit. He couldn't even find a Ukraine on the map. He couldn't find Russia on the map. Hell, he might not even be able to find the United States on a map. I mean, this is the normal person that's walking around in a kind of a semi-comatose state, and, you know, I'm not judging people. Like, I realize that maybe I'm talking to some people right now that don't do this. You're not into gathering intel all day. You don't scan all the obscure sources. Nowadays, they have to be obscure sources, and they have to be, you have to vet them. You really do. I mean, you go to obscure sources, and right away you notice right away whether they're pushing a money thing or sell gold thing or whatever. They have an agenda already. So you recognize that right away. So the bottom line is that average Joe Blow out there doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He could care less in a way. I mean, he's so involved in his routine, the slave routine, going to work every day, 9 to 5, coming home, drinking a couple of beers, watching a football game on TV or something, and then just hitting the sack, you know, and getting up the next day and doing the same routine over and over again, trying to figure out how you're going to make ends meet and what bills you're going to pay. And I know this firsthand because my son is still involved in that, but yet he knows what it is. Let's put it that he wouldn't be my son if he didn't know what's going on, and he does. He's very intuitive and actually has very high sense perception on all kinds of things, spiritual. But he realizes that he's in that routine too. And we talk about it a lot, believe me. We talk about the trap and how to create your own reality and things of that nature. And we also talk about intel. He's as up on this stuff as I am, almost, pretty much. Sometimes I'll reveal something to him, but he watches things too, except he just doesn't have the time. Like I say before, the average person out there doesn't have the time to do this. So if you're watching this channel and you're listening to me right now, you should consider yourself fortunate, because I'm out there doing all the fucking legwork and talking about this and that, and I might talk about various things. But I'm doing the legwork and you're sitting there on the couch listening to me. You're not doing legwork. At least I don't think you're doing as much as I am. You might be doing some legwork. Now, this isn't for my regular listeners, because I know a lot of them do legwork, because they probably learned from me talking to them about it. But the average person out there is walking around in a robotic, comatose, hypnotized state. Want to read a good book about being in different states? Read Hypnotize Maria by Richard Bach. He also wrote Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, which is just great. It's a story about a barnstorming pilot that becomes the Messiah or something. Yeah, it's a great little book. So my point here is that I'm just talking about intel, and I'm talking about I gather intel, and I'm talking about how a lot of people are missing out by not subscribing to this channel. But then again, quality is better than quantity. I'd rather talk to you guys and have you know that you're talking to a reliable source somebody that picks apart things to the bare bones, you know, kind of like the samurai sword, cleaving to the bone, you know, through the bone, going to the marrow, that type of thing. You have to do that nowadays unless you want to just walk around as a total dumb shit and not be aware, you know. So gather intel any way you can, and if you don't have the time, come to this channel and listen to me, and I'll spout off all kinds of things that you're never going to hear on the main scum media. Incidentally, Tucker Carlson lost his job today at Fox News. A lot of people are going to be bummed out about that, man, because that seemed like the one source they could go to hear at least a scintilla of truth, you know. And he did expose a lot of things, and now he's out the door. Now, again, I'm always suspicious of things. Why is he out the door, and why did Fox News at this particular time decide to part company with him when he's probably bringing in more money for them than any other news reporter? So either the intel goes really deep on this one and they infiltrated, and it had to do with the suit against Fox with the Dominion voting machines. They lost that one. 700, what was it? 700 million? Well, the shit started hitting the fan after that, because it was the suit had to do with certain newscasters propagating false information or whatever, and actually they were probably telling the truth. Another O'Reilly deal, you know, he was out the door too. Oh, they'll drum up something, a sex scandal, or, you know. And then you get politicians coming out. That black woman, I forget her name, Cortez, I think it is. Okay, well, I don't have too much to say about that, other than the fact that consider the source. If somebody says something bad about a newscaster, they must be telling the truth. So now it's going to become even yet more critical to find intel in any way, shape, or form. Incidentally, the reason that I thought that that intel leak happened with the Pentagon, I think I didn't finish up on that, was that they found out that people like me and other people are out there, and we're picking the bones, and we're finding out the nitty-gritty, and we're finding out what's really going on in Ukraine and who's really winning and losing. And it's not the ones that America is supporting, let's put it that way, sending hundreds of billions of dollars to. And that is evident in the intel leaks, you know, and everybody's making a big deal about these intel leaks. And this is shit that a lot of us knew and were saying for, what, a year now? I knew a year ago the thing was a hoax. I knew a year ago that it was all based on something that happened in the Maidan coup in that area with the in 2014. Okay, the Victoria Nuland Joe Biden affair, you know, John Kerry, when she said fuck the EU, when she got caught in a conversation, and now what are they doing? They're using the EU, and the EU is letting themselves be used. You can't figure out some of this stuff, because what it amounts to is that you're playing 5D chess. And you have to have a supreme knowledge of, I'm going to have some more coffee here. You have to have a supreme knowledge of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, mass hypnosis, hypnosis through the media, hypnosis through communication systems, You have to understand what propaganda is. You have to understand how far back it goes. And I've talked about that before, the mass marketing thing, and Freud's, I think it was nephew, or I think his name was Edward Bernays, was the guy's name. He was the one that started all kinds of campaigns, mass marketing, and manipulation of people back in what, the 30s, 40s? So that's why, the reason that I'm coming on here is to explain the complexities of what's going on right now. As far as trying to dig up information, even frontline information is very difficult to find. Most of it, like Russia or Ukraine, will put out a story not for the people at large, but for the other side to buy into it and get fearful and make a wrong move or something like that, It's a bluff. There's a lot of bluffing going on. And bluffing is nothing but a lie. I mean, in a way, okay, I would like to convince myself that when I'm playing Texas Hold'em, I'm not really lying. But bluffing is pretty close, okay? It's pretty close. There's a fine line there. I don't really consider it an outright lie because everybody's knowing we're playing a game anyway. So it's who plays the game better is what it is. It's who plays the game better. And but see, the current situation right now is so dangerous because usually when you're playing a game, you kind of have a set of rules. There ain't no rules what's going on now. Nobody knows what's going on, particularly with the adolescents that are running the show here in the States. It's really pathetic. It really is pathetic. There is no America anymore. It's a corporatocracy. I'll get that out. And it's run by oligarchs, just like everything else. And the oligarchs are the ones that people call the deep state. Well, they're just money people. They're money people. They're beyond worrying about the day-to-day complexities of life. So anyway, I'm here waxing on and waxing off and waxing on, just like the Karate. I love that movie, man. The Karate Kid. Hey, I don't make fun of me either. I'm a supreme martial artist, been in it for years. Not bragging or anything. But I found that was a great movie for influencing younger people to take up a martial art. And I kind of like the old Chinese guy. No, he was Japanese, that's what he was. Mr. Miyagi, I think his name was. Miyagi or something. Pretty cool for kids. And, I enjoyed it too. There was some pretty good scenes in there. I'm getting off on a tangent, I know. But it's all related, the martial arts. And if you're a martial artist, then you're into strategy, and you're into moves, and you're into counter moves, and you're into using the person's energy against themselves. So they don't call it the martial arts for nothing. It's a lot like war. Matter of fact, I was in a dojo and trained with the Navy SEALs that were out on Coronado. I was actually in the dojo training with those guys and imparting certain things to them because I'd been there longer, and I had a higher belt than they did, more years, and so I got to get involved in that aspect. And then I also got involved in knowing some of those guys and knowing how they operate and hanging out with them, just having fun, talking. So this all is related, strategic stuff, research, intelligence, knowledge about what's going on around you. That's why I think this channel is important. And you should too. And if you do, hit the subscribe button, like button. You gotta say that, man, nowadays, or, it's, I don't know. And I'm also open to donations as well. I could use about $200-300 extra bucks a month right now. That would come in nice and handy. So you can go to spiritofcrazyhorse.com and donate there with the donate button. And also you can subscribe to Substack, which is there as well. I know, what are you going to do, get to a certain point in your life and you want to cruise a while, you just want to chill. I'm doing pretty good at it, and but I always appreciate a little offering now and then. Okay, I'm going to leave it there today. See how I worked that in, man? Beautiful segue there, wasn't it? Just segued right into that shit. All right. Later on.